was 2 years out of college, completely broke, and desperate for any work. Scrolling through Indeed had become my nightly ritual, a pathetic cycle of false hope. That's when I found the listing that would eventually destroy my sense of safety. Private lifeguard position at a hotel near the Arizona border. $30 an hour. Night shift only, 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. No exceptions, no flexibility. The pay was too good for a simple lifeguard job. That should have warned me. But there was something else buried in the requirements that made my stomach turn cold. Must not speak Spanish. Not Spanish preferred or English required. Must not speak Spanish. I'm half Mexican. I've spoken Spanish fluently since I could form words. But $30 an hour silences a lot of questions, doesn't it? It quiets conscience. I lied on my application without hesitation, told them I was completely monolingual. They called me back within 3 hours, like they'd been sitting by the phone waiting. The Desert Vista Hotel looked normal enough when I arrived for my first shift. A pudgy man named Marco greeted me with a warm smile that seemed genuine enough. Then the tall one appeared, turning the corner like he'd been watching from shadows. Rafael. He didn't bother introducing himself. He just started speaking rapid Spanish directly at me, testing me. Right there in the entrance hallway, testing me like I was livestock. His eyes never left my face, watching for the slightest flicker of comprehension. I kept my expression blank and confused, even as I understood every single word. They both laughed when I didn't react, like I'd passed some twisted initiation ritual. Rafael explained the job as we walked through the dim corridors to the pool. Collect money from non-guests who want to swim. Watch the pool. Call him for trouble. Then he said something that made every hair on my neck stand straight up. If anyone shows you a blue wristband, you let them into the pool house immediately. He pointed to a large concrete building behind the lifeguard stand I hadn't noticed before. Its windows were completely covered with what looked like industrial blackout material. The door was reinforced steel. It didn't look like storage. It looked like a vault, like something meant to hide. I didn't ask questions. I should have asked every question in the world. The first few weeks passed quietly, almost boring enough to make me forget my suspicions. I collected entry fees, watched families swim under the desert stars, went home alone. The routine felt safe, normal. I started to relax into the job's rhythm. Then, one evening, a man in dark sunglasses and a crisp white shirt approached. He didn't say a word to me, just raised his wrist slowly, showing me the band. It was blue, electric blue, like a marker, like a brand of membership. My hands trembled violently as I climbed down from my chair and unlocked the door. He went inside without acknowledging me. The door locked automatically behind him with a heavy click. For an hour, I sat, frozen in my lifeguard chair, trying not to stare, trying desperately not to imagine what was happening 20 feet behind my back. The sounds from inside were muffled but present. Footsteps, voices, something being dragged. When he finally came out, his backpack was bulging so much the zippers strained. It had been nearly flat, almost empty when he'd arrived an hour before. He walked past me without a single glance, like I was furniture, invisible and irrelevant. After that night, more people came, sometimes alone, but increasingly, they arrived in groups. All of them wearing blue wristbands, all of them speaking only Spanish among themselves. The pool itself got busier too. Non-guests started showing up to swim in droves. But something was deeply wrong with the money they gave me every single time. $20 entry fee, but they'd hand me 50s and 100s without asking for change. Night after night after night. Overpaying by absurd amounts, then vanishing into the water. They'd swim for maybe 15 minutes, then leave. Always the same strange pattern. I called Raphael about it one night, my voice cracking with nervousness I couldn't hide. "People make mistakes with money," he said flatly, then hung up while I was speaking. That's when I knew with absolute certainty, when the truth settled into my bones. Money laundering. Drugs moving through that pool house. Maybe worse things I couldn't imagine. And I was the perfect cover for all of it. The perfect alibi. The clueless white kid who couldn't understand what they said right in front of him. I should have quit immediately. Every rational instinct screamed at me to run and disappear. But I didn't quit. God help me. I kept showing up, shift after shift. The money was too good. The tips were incredible. I told myself I needed it. The regulars started greeting me by name now, giving me tips, high-fiving me cheerfully. They spoke freely around me constantly, their Spanish conversations flowing like contaminated water. I heard enough to understand the scope. Shipments coming across, territories being divided, names of people who wouldn't be problems anymore. The casual way they said it. The money kept coming in waves. The tips got bigger every week. I kept silent. Then, one night, I saved a drowning kid, just a small boy who'd swum deep. When I surfaced with him, gasping and alive, everyone at the pool erupted in applause. Raphael came down from somewhere high in the hotel, his eyes actually wet with tears. The boy was his son, his only son. He gripped my shoulders hard and said that. He said I'd saved his life, and his voice cracked when he spoke those words. The next day, they were all waiting at the gate with wine glasses and bottles. A celebration. For me. Raphael, Marco, and at least 6 men with blue wristbands. We toasted. They clapped me on the back repeatedly. I felt like I finally belonged somewhere. Then, one of them raised his glass high and made an elaborate toast in Spanish. To their growing profits, to the lives they were destroying across the border, to their empire. Everyone laughed and drank deeply. I laughed too, playing my part so perfectly now. The taste of wine turned to ashes and poison in my mouth immediately after. I'd become addicted to their approval, to feeling important and included, to the money. And I'd stayed long enough to become complicit in whatever hell they were creating nightly. My phone rang during my shift the following evening. It was my mother calling. She never called me during work unless it was genuinely urgent. I had to answer. I found a secluded alcove near the pool house, away from the crowd noise. My mother only speaks Spanish. I had absolutely no choice but to respond in Spanish. I don't even remember what she needed from me. I barely heard her actual words, because when I turned around slowly, Marco was standing exactly 3 feet behind me. just standing there in complete silence, staring at me, his face empty of all expression. This wasn't the friendly man who'd greeted me warmly on my very first day. This was someone else entirely, something else. And he'd heard every single word I'd spoken. The silence between us stretched out like a wire pulled far too tight, ready to snap. "How long have you known Spanish?" His voice was soft, almost gentle and conversational. I stammered something pathetic about practicing with a friend recently, trying to learn the basics. He didn't blink once, didn't move a muscle, just kept staring with those completely dead eyes. I could see him calculating options behind his face, weighing possibilities I didn't want to imagine. My heart hammered so violently hard I thought my ribs would actually crack open. He was deciding whether I needed to disappear tonight. I could feel it in the air. The pool house was right there behind us. Empty. Soundproof. Ready. Finally, after an eternity compressed into maybe 15 seconds, he said simply, "Okay." Then he turned around and walked back toward the hotel without another single word. I climbed back into my lifeguard chair, but I couldn't make my legs stop shaking. Every survival instinct I had screamed at me to run immediately, but I was paralyzed. If I left right now, would that confirm his suspicions completely? Would they follow me home? They knew where I lived. They knew my schedule. They knew everything about my life. I sat in that chair, paralyzed by pure fear, watching the clock crawl toward 1 a.m. Every minute felt like an hour. Every sound made me flinch. Every shadow moved wrong. Minutes before my shift finally ended, Marco returned to my lifeguard stand again. "Come in an hour early tomorrow night," he said, his voice flat and purely businesslike. "I have a new opportunity for you. A promotion, really. Better money." He pulled out a thick stack of bills and placed $200 in my hand. Then he walked away slowly, disappearing into the hotel's dark interior without looking back. I never went back to that hotel. Not the next day. Not ever again. I abandoned that job like it was a building actively engulfed in flames. For months afterward, I barely slept at all, jumping violently at every sound outside. Every white van that passed my street. Every car that idled a moment too long. I'd lie awake in complete darkness, replaying that moment when Marco stared at me, wondering what that new opportunity would have actually involved, what it really meant. Wondering if I would have left that hotel property alive the next night. I still don't understand why they needed someone like me there at all. Maybe I was just insurance, a clueless employee for police to find and question. Someone who could legitimately claim total ignorance if everything fell apart around them. Or maybe there was another reason entirely. One I'm grateful I never had to learn. I think about that pool house sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep properly. About what was really happening behind that locked steel door every single night. 20 feet from where I sat, smiling and waving, behind my back, for months. And I think about the look in Marco's eyes when he caught me speaking Spanish. That wasn't anger at betrayal. That wasn't even surprise or shock at being deceived. That was pure calculation. Cold, methodical, professional calculation about my usefulness. I came very close to dying that summer in the desert. Closer than I'll ever know. And the worst part that still haunts me? I nearly went back anyway. Part of me still wonders what would have happened if I'd shown up early. What that promotion really meant. What they would have shown me in that building. But most of me is just grateful I'll never, ever know the answer. October 2016. The month clowns stopped being funny and started appearing everywhere you looked. Every single news station ran constant stories about sightings, about people in makeup lurking near schools. Most were hoaxes, obviously. Teenagers with too much time and catastrophically bad judgment. But some weren't hoaxes at all. Some were absolutely real. And I know that for certain. I was 16 years old, a junior, just another kid trying to survive chemistry class. It was a Wednesday afternoon when I boarded the 4 train heading uptown toward Harlem. The car was emptier than usual for that time of day, but I barely noticed. I had my headphones in, Drake drowning out the entire world around me completely. My eyes were glued to chemistry flashcards on my phone screen, totally absorbed in memorization. I wasn't paying any attention to my surroundings. That was my first critical mistake. When you're alone on the subway, you should always pay attention to everything. But I'd taken this exact route 100 times before. Pure muscle memory, mindless routine. Get on at school, get off at 125th, walk home. Same pattern every single day. The train lurched hard and slowed. I didn't even bother looking up to confirm the station. My body just knew instinctively. Stand up, walk to the doors, wait for them to open. I was still staring at my phone screen when the doors began sliding open slowly. Still completely lost in my music, in my own little bubble of teenage oblivion and distraction. Then, something in my peripheral vision registered wrong. Something was very, very wrong. A shape blocking the doorway completely. A person standing exactly where no one should ever stand. I looked up slowly. My brain needed a full second to actually process what I was seeing. A clown. A fully dressed clown was standing directly in the subway doorway, motionless. Striped pants in purple and white that were 3 sizes too big, bunched at enormous shoes. Bright orange shirt. Black suspenders hanging loose. The costume was complete, disturbingly meticulous. His face was painted stark white, thick makeup caked on like plaster, like a death mask. Bright red nose, green eyebrows drawn high in a permanent expression of manic surprise. No wig though. His actual dark hair was showing. That detail made it so much worse. For a long moment, my mind completely refused to accept what I was seeing in front of me. This couldn't be real. This had to be some weird performance art or a prank. But he wasn't moving at all. Wasn't trying to board the train. Just standing there, blocking everything. Staring at me through that grotesque painted face, with eyes that didn't blink once. I yanked my headphones out fast. The subway's heavy silence hit me like ice water. I could hear my own breathing suddenly, ragged and too loud in my own ears. The door chime sounded its warning. 5 seconds, maybe less before the doors would slam closed. I moved toward him cautiously, trying to slip past, stupidly assuming he'd step aside normally. The second I touched his costume, he moved with horrifying purpose. One fluid motion, bending down rapidly to bring his painted face level with mine. His eyes weren't painted. They were real, human, and completely void of anything I recognized as normal. I didn't think about anything. I just ran, shoved past him with every ounce of strength. Behind me, I heard him lurch forward with a speed that shouldn't have been humanly possible. He was trying to tackle me down. A grown man in full clown makeup, trying to take me down. I dodged left instinctively and sprinted hard toward the stairs, my backpack slamming against my spine painfully. Then I heard it clearly. Footsteps. But not normal footsteps at all. A jerky, uneven rhythm, like his legs weren't quite working right, like joints bending wrong. Like something pretending to be human, but not getting the movements exactly correct at all. I risked one glance back over my shoulder. He was chasing me at full speed. That's when I saw the knife gripped tight in his right hand. A kitchen knife, long blade catching the harsh fluorescent lights as he ran. Where had that come from? Had he been holding it the entire time I was standing there? The 125th Street station was empty. Completely, impossibly empty in the middle of the afternoon. No transit workers anywhere. No other passengers at all. Just me and him in that space. My sneakers hit the stairs hard, and I took them 3 at a time, gasping. Behind me, that horrible, jerky running continued, the slap of oversized shoes on concrete echoing. I could hear the knife scraping against the metal railing as he grabbed for balance. My chest burned like fire. My legs screamed in protest, but I didn't slow down even slightly. I burst onto the street, into bright daylight and normal people, and what felt like safety. I spun around immediately, gasping for air, fully expecting him to follow me out into daylight. But the stairwell was completely empty now. He'd stopped at the threshold between worlds. Like something invisible was keeping him down there in the dark, where he belonged. I called 911 with hands shaking so violently I could barely hold my phone properly. "There's a man in a clown costume. He chased me with a knife. He's still down there." The operator's voice was unnaturally calm, professional, like she'd heard this exact story before many times. Police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers went down into the station to investigate. They came back up alone 15 minutes later. No clown. No sign anyone had been there. "Are you absolutely sure about what you saw?" one officer asked, not unkindly but clearly skeptical. I was sure. The adrenaline still flooding my entire system was absolutely sure of everything. They took my detailed statement, told me I'd done the right thing by running immediately, told me I was safe now, told me to call again if anything else happened tonight. But as I walked home slowly, looking over my shoulder every few steps, I didn't feel safe. Every person on the sidewalk could have been him in different clothes, following me home. He'd seen me, clearly, stood inches from my face, stared directly into my eyes. What if he followed me? What if he knew exactly which direction I'd gone? The thought burrowed deep into my brain and wouldn't leave no matter what I tried. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. Every sound outside my window became his footsteps approaching. Every shadow in my room became a figure standing perfectly still in the corner, watching me. I kept seeing his painted face, those dead eyes behind the green makeup eyebrows, staring. Kept hearing those irregular footsteps echoing endlessly in the empty station behind me. For days afterward, I took different trains, got off at different stops randomly, walked home through crowded streets only, never the same route twice in a row. My parents tried their best to reassure me. It was just some sicko capitalizing on a trend. The clown thing would blow over soon. These people always got caught eventually, they said. But he didn't get caught. At least, I never heard about it on any news. I checked the news obsessively for weeks, searching desperately for similar incidents in the city. There were dozens of clown sightings that month, all over New York City and beyond. But none of them matched exactly what happened to me in that station. None mentioned a knife. None mentioned an actual chase through an empty station. I started wondering if maybe the police thought I'd made the whole thing up for attention. Just another hysterical teenager, caught up in mass hysteria and internet trends. But I knew what I saw. What I felt when I shoved past his solid body. The solid reality of him. The body heat coming off him in waves. The knife wasn't a prop. That chase wasn't a prank or performance. He wanted to hurt me. Badly. Maybe worse than just hurt me. It took 3 full weeks before I could take the 4 train again without panic attacks. Even then, I couldn't bring myself to get off at 125th Street station anymore. I'd ride past it, watching the platform carefully through the window, heart racing violently. Looking for any flash of color, any hint of painted white skin waiting there. Eventually, the immediate terror faded somewhat. That's what time does to trauma. But it left something else behind permanently. A constant, vigilant awareness. Now I never wear headphones on the subway anymore. Never look at my phone once. I watch every single person who gets on. Every person who stands near the doors. I've memorized where the emergency exits are at every single station on my route. My friends don't understand why I'm so paranoid about public transit now. They didn't see what I saw, didn't feel what I felt in that moment. That moment when your brain screams that something is actively hunting you down. Sometimes late at night, I still think about him. Wonder who he really was underneath. Was I random? Or had he been watching me for days, waiting for the perfect moment? Did he do this to others before me? Is he still down there, riding the trains? The clown hysteria ended eventually. Halloween passed. The news moved on to other stories. But I never got closure. Never got answers to any of my questions. Just the memory of those 5 seconds in the doorway, staring at each other. The feel of his rough costume against my shoulder as I shoved past him desperately. The sound of those wrong, inhuman footsteps chasing me up the stairs in the empty station. And the knife. Always the knife in my nightmares. I think about how close I came. How differently that day could have ended for me. If the train had been more crowded, would he have tried? Would witnesses have stopped him? If I'd been slower, less aware in that crucial moment, what would have happened then? I'll never know the answer, and maybe that's worse than knowing the truth. Because in my mind, on the nights when I can't sleep at all, I imagine every possibility. All the ways that afternoon could have gone if I'd hesitated even 1 second longer than I did. The doors closing, with me still trapped inside the train car, with him and his knife. Or worse, him catching me on those stairs in the completely empty station underground. No witnesses anywhere. No cameras that worked properly. No one hearing me scream for help. I got lucky. That's all it was. Dumb, random luck and muscle memory from running track. And somewhere in this city right now, maybe he's still riding the trains at rush hour. Still wearing that costume. Still carrying that knife. Still watching the doors. Still waiting at empty stations for the next person who isn't paying attention to their surroundings. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they caught him and I just never heard about it. But I don't think I am wrong. I think he's still out there. Because that's the thing about real horror that happens in real life. It doesn't always have an ending. Sometimes it just stops.